Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Katelyn, and we got another monster. We're doing so many monsters back to back. I have been so happy with this. It's been really fun to do so many creature creations, and I thought we'd dive back into a classic, which is a double name monster. So for those of you who are new to the channel, this is like a classic monster mash that I did back in the day. It's kind of like the Avatar: The Last Airbender mashing, where we take an existing animal in our world that has a double name. For example, a tarantula hawk is a real insect in our world, but in these, I basically take a tarantula and a hawk, and then I put them together. So we're taking the two separate creatures, molding them together, and making a new creature. So I use a very official way of finding double name monsters, which is this crossword puzzle that I found online that has a very long list of existing creatures in our world, and then I do a random number generator to see which one on the list we're doing. Basically, if we hit one that we've already done, we're not going to revisit it, but let's see what we get today. So let me hit generate. Okay, we got a 24. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gives us a Horse Leech. Oh my God. I'm so excited. We have been on such a cool, creepy kick of cool, creepy monsters. This is going to be awesome. I just imagine this gross, big leech horse. Well, I mean, I guess I should probably start sketching so then you guys can see what's happening in here. And let's make this final creature. All right, let's jump in and get this Horse Leech started. So I did gather a few reference pictures, but I already had in my head exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted a weird, long-necked horse leech combo with a cool leech head and leech tail on a horse body. I just knew immediately that's really what I was driving with and the idea I had for this. So I got the rough idea down first, and I was like, I wanted to make it really dynamic with the pose, and I found this picture of a horse grazing in like a pond, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how perfect would that be for our weird aquatic leech creature. And then from there, I just kind of went a little ham, and we got a whole background for this one. I say it later, and I've said it in a few recent monster mashes, but I'm trying to do a little more backgrounds, and I feel this one was the perfect like moody piece where I felt it would fit so perfectly. So I was like, I'm gonna do everything I can to make this a cool background for this creature. So the concepting for this was really quick and easy. I already felt like in my gut as soon as I saw that I got the prompt, I'm like, I already know what I want to make with this. It's going to be so cool. And I wanted to basically give the entire horse the leech texture and not have any like horse fur present. And with that, I kind of inserted a fin of like a fish instead of like a traditional horse mane, just because like if I put hair on this, it would be a little bit disjointed and might not look, I guess, as symmetrical. Or not symmetrical. It wouldn't work as well. Cohesive, that's the word. It wouldn't work as cohesively as like an aquatic like creature look. And so having that fin mane was the nice in between of like it still has a cool horse mane, but it's an awesome fin. And so I started coloring this one, and I actually undo all of my coloring because at first I started with like I guess like a more hazy pencil brush. When I was experimenting with the colors, I thought I was going to do like this orange and blue combo on more of a brown body. But then I was like, I'm not really liking the body that dark and brown. So I went more for like the kind of dirty green color, I guess, that matched one of the other leeches a little bit better. And as I was working on these colors, I just was not jiving with it. I didn't want to make this guy too dark, and I was trying to add pops of color like those oranges and the yellows, but it just was not looking good in my brain. And I think also the shapes of the, I guess, the messier brush, it just wasn't jiving. It didn't look cohesive. It didn't look like really good animal markings. I'm like, I can do better. And I think I was a little afraid to go solid color in terms of like a very solid pen to pencil those in. But as soon as I did the ones on the neck and the side there, I'm like, never mind. That looks way better than my rough pencil. And so I went through and redid all the colors with my pen tool instead, so it was a solid shape, didn't have any type of fuzzy outline or anything, and that worked much better. I think one thing that's interesting is like I misinterpreted what the reference image was showing me, because if you do look at like a picture of a leech, they do have very distinctive bands of color. And in my brain, I saw the edges were like, they weren't solid. They were kind of broken up by other colors, or it looks like almost like scales. I know leeches don't really have scales, but it kind of has like these, I don't know what you'd call it, like spotting patterns that happen along the edges of the colors. So the patterns bleed into each other without being like a hazy bleed. And so that's what was happening in my brain. I was like, we'll do this hazy brush and it will work. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work. So doing the solid pen tool made it look like the shapes that are on the leech. And then I broke it up by adding the surrounding colors in those little patchy blocks. And I feel that sold the idea of what I was thinking right away. And I was doing this live on Twitch, so I had a lot of fun working with you guys on some color language and maybe a few ideas. One of the ideas the chat had was having this like red stomach to contrast the rest of the colors, and I love it. It was originally that yellowish green color, and man, the red just is like so good. It's so good. We joke that it is the blood of its victims, but I think it just is a really solid color to have for the belly shading. And then from there, we had a lot of fun brainstorming some lore in the Twitch chat while I was working. And I thought this would be a really cool creature to come from the Underdark because these don't have eyes. I could see these maybe detecting prey via heat and sound, but they can't really see anything. So that's kind of the idea of like it having these like false eyes for where the color patching is, just to give maybe other predators like a little bit of a fright thinking that it's looking directly at them. But it's just more of like a heat sensor type of face. And then we also had a really fun idea that these would be the creatures that might be associated with a cool blood cult that could be in the D&D world. These could be the steeds of choice for the blood cult. But there's a caveat. You have to keep your leech horse fed or else you will become the next meal, was kind of the idea. That's just because I feel these things wouldn't really have loyalty or like could be like broken in per se like a traditional horse. I feel it's one of those things like, you feed me, I'll work with you, but if you don't feed me, you're my next meal. So that's kind of what I was thinking for this creature and how they would interact with like the rest of the world. They would probably be in like small herds similar to wild horses in our world. They could be captured by these blood cultists and used as their steeds of choice. But I think they would need to be constantly fed some type of blood to keep them loyal to the cult in general. So with the backstory out of the way, I'll tell you more about the painting. So I really wanted to do the idea of like the moon casting onto the water. I've never painted it before, so it took quite a few revisions and looking at a bunch of reference for it to actually work. And I actually got the final look here from a ukiyo-e style woodblock painting, and I was like, this is perfect. Like, this is exactly what I wanted the moon to look like on the water, and I was just so happy with it. I think it turned out really good. It just was a struggle. I had to walk away from this a couple times and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes to be like, okay, what's wrong with the moon hitting the water? But I'm very happy with how it turned out. I think this was such a fun atmospheric piece. Like I said, I don't do backgrounds that often, but this felt right. I feel like I'm finally hitting a stride with putting my creatures in cool environments. And then I'm learning every time. We're doing something different. Like I said, I've never done cool moon reflectiveness, and I don't really paint water that much, so this was the perfect opportunity to learn a totally new skill. And then we added a little bit of wonderful depth by adding some Gaussian blur to the background foliage. I add a couple trees, and we are done. All right, and there we have it. We have our Horse Leech. I love how this one turned out. It's so creepy. It's so cinematic, so moody. I've been trying to add more backgrounds here and there to my creatures. We're not going to get them for all of them. It just depends on how much time I have for the week. But this one was really fun to try to add like the reflectiveness of the moon in the sky, a cool like swamp type of place. Oh, I just love it. I love it so much. This thing would be terrifying to come across in the wild. I think I would run the other way very quickly. But But again, thank you guys so much for stopping by and checking out this video. I want to give a shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me. If you guys would like to get this Horse Leech as a print plus a sticker, and I'm making a sticker sheet for it, I just loved this one so much. We're going to make it a whole themed package for this month. Go check out my Patreon. If you sign up for the mail club, you can get a print and a sticker, or our bigger mail club, you get the print, the sticker, and the sticker sheet of our wonderful Horse Leech. You can go check it out over on my Patreon. I also make a Patreon podcast where you can hear like a behind the scenes of what I'm working on, maybe some shows coming up, and answering some of your guys' questions. And I post my artwork early so you can see the high resolution versions on Patreon before they're even released anywhere else. So thank you again so much for supporting me over on Patreon, and liking and subscribing and commenting over here. The whole shebang also helps, so I appreciate you guys watching my little monster videos. I hope you've been enjoying them. I'm excited to bring you more creature and monster creation here in the future, so make sure you do subscribe so you can follow along as I make so many monsters this year. We're making a lot. Again, thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye, everybody.